We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
And welcome back to another episode of the Golden Bear Cast, a part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. We're back. It's been a little bit of a hiatus. We took a week off. Andy and I both needed the week off. But we took the week off in the week that like all of this random sports news broke. But I am one of your hosts, and we're going to be talking about that. But I'm one of your hosts, Rob Huang. Alongside me, of course, is my co-host, Andy. Andy, how are you doing this afternoon, evening? It's evening. It's not afternoon.
Had a long, full day of nothing and excited to actually do something with my time tonight. What was it, 3 hours into that day where we decided to take it off, and then I texted you, I was like, maybe we should do it.
And I was like, nah, we already committed to not doing it. Let's just not do it. So we're going to be backtracking some news here. But we have a special guest. If you didn't read the title of the podcast, you're in for a treat. We have a dear friend of ours, Mr. Ben Ross, the A's insider, broadcaster extraordinaire, formerly of CGB, wrote for us for a little bit with some men's basketball stuff too. But thanks for joining us, Ben. We appreciate the time. How are you doing?
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I'm excited to chat with you. Doing well, as you said, keeping busy, doing a little bit of everything. A's stuff, some college broadcasting, some articles here and there. So keeping busy.
Well, I mean, nothing more busy than the A's and baseball and hot stove news going around. Andy's a big Giants fan, and a fantasy baseball player, so he's all up in the know. So I feel like Andy's going to have better questions than I do. But we got to talk about, we're just going to get right into it. We're going to talk about the first thing that I think a lot of Cal fans were upset about, which was the Marcus Semien deal. What were your thoughts on it? And what happened, like the insanity of a 10-year a 10-year deal with $1 million in each, or 8-year deal with $1 million each, or something along those lines. Some weird pay structure.
That was sort of the rumor out there, something ridiculous. I mean, look, A's fans I think are unfortunately used to this, seeing their best players leave, and you were hoping that things maybe would change, especially with a guy like Marcus Semien. Obviously he's a Cal guy, but he's a Bay Area guy through and through. He's from here. He's from San Francisco, and he was one of the A's team leaders. He's obviously a great player. He's an MVP finalist in the American League a couple of years ago. So, and it's not like he's old. I think he's 31. Or maybe even still 30. So to see him go to Toronto for, just a 1-year deal, I think it was around $18 million.
Yeah.
But yeah, the A's. So yeah, apparently the A's offer was something like 1 year, $12.5 million, but like $10 million was paid out over 10 years or something ridiculous. Just like embarrassing. I mean, honestly, embarrassing if you're the organization, in my opinion.
It was the opposite Bobby Bonilla deal.
Exactly. God, Bobby Bonilla, what was his, like over 30 years or something? I mean, he's still getting paid like every year. It's hilarious.
Yeah, I think we still have a few more years of that deal before we can finally put to rest Bobby Bonilla Day.
Yeah,
like I
right.
finally go away. Man, I mean, just diving a little bit deeper into the A's. You know, there's a lot of Cal connections there. You know, we started with Marcus Semien, Canada's back, Bomel, of course, and then of course the Dalton Jeffries. You know, the hope of him, you know, maybe bursting onto the scene. Mm-hmm. In your opinion, does Dalton Jeffries finally make the jump? We did see him play last season. Just, you know, I believe one game he pitched, or at least on record he had one game pitched. But is this the year where he makes that jump?
You know, it's going to be interesting. Like, he's definitely getting better every year, and I think he will make that jump at some point. It might be tough this year. Well, you never know. I mean, this year the A's rotation looks really good, but then again, when it comes to pitchers, there's always injuries, unfortunately, and unforeseen events. And so that may be where he gets an opportunity as sort of a depth starter, or maybe in the bullpen. I mean, that's sort of a spot where the A's, I think, are going to need some help. You know, losing Liam Hendricks, their closer, losing Joakim Soria, who was, you know, one of their primary setup guys. They did bring back Yusmeiro Petit, and then they signed Sergio Romo, speaking of former Giants. But no, I mean, I think he'll continue to get opportunities. I don't know if this is necessarily the year that he breaks through. I think he will probably see some time again, whether it's a spot start or maybe out of the bullpen. But I think it's only a matter of time with him. Like, he does seem to be getting better every year, and his natural ability is pretty impressive.
Andy, you got anything for Ben before I move on the conversation?
Yeah, what's your overall? I mean, we know. I think everybody, if you exactly as Ben said, if you're an A's fan, you're sort of expecting your best players to leave, and Chris Davis obviously signed the one player that they signed to a multi-year, and then just tanked and shipped him off. So you mentioned the rotation. The rotation looks really good. What are other areas that you could build some excitement around in regards to the A's looking towards this 2021 season?
Yeah, I mean, the crazy thing is, despite all the guys they're losing, they're still going to be really good, I think. I mean, I think there's a good chance they win the division again. I actually think they're like the betting favorites in the AL West. You know, the Astros have obviously lost some pieces too. But yeah, the A's rotation is loaded with young talent. I mean, Jesus Luzardo's a stud. Frankie Montas, Chris Bassett are back. Sean Manaea. They re-signed Mike Fiers. AJ Puck. We'll see if he's healthy, but he's another one of those young guys who was coming up with Luzardo, who's been one of their top prospects for a while. So they've got some really good arms for the first time in a while in the rotation. Maybe the best rotation they've had since Barry Zito, Mark Mulder, Tim Hudson, the big three. So that's a strength. They still have a lot of pop in that lineup. They lose Marcus Semien, but obviously Matt Chapman and Matt Olson are back, who are both great young players. Sean Murphy had a great rookie year as a catcher last year. In the outfield, Rob mentioned Mark Canha's back, Ramon Laureano. So I think they've still got some good pieces in the lineup, and they're a good defensive team. I think what's most disappointing is that you look at the young core, and they really weren't too far away from making a World Series type push. And so what you'd like to see is for a team to add pieces, not lose pieces when they're in that situation. That's what's so upsetting. But I still think they're a legitimate division contender. I think they'll make the playoffs. I just think, obviously, they're not quite where they need to be to take that next step, which is getting to the World Series. They won one playoff series last year, but if anything, they might have gotten a little bit worse with some of the pieces they lost.
Does that fuel the case that that ownership has, that hey, we can just keep doing what we're doing and get away with it because we're going to be able to field competitive teams? We have Billy Beane, who's one of the best GMs in the game, and he's maybe to a fault, loyal to the A's, and is that just sort of they hear this criticism? You see it out there, and on Twitter and other places where it's very obvious that my dog is trying to break in right now, apparently. But it's also very obvious that the Wolf family is incredibly unpopular. So I'm curious just to hear, like, do you think this fuels their momentum for keeping the team, or does it actually?
It's interesting because John Fisher, who's like running things now, there was a big what was it? There was a big thing going around for people to sign, trying to. A petition, that's the word I'm looking for, to get him to sell the team because, he's worth like almost $3 billion. He's one of the richest owners in baseball, and year out, the A's are toward the bottom in payroll. I think what a lot of people think is that he's just trying to get this new stadium, which that's still up in the air. But he's trying to get a new stadium for the team to sort of boost the value, raise the value, and then sell when the value's higher. We'll see if that happens. I don't think that they can do this forever, though. I mean, I think they're going to be good this year. The problem they're going to run into is some of the guys I mentioned, Matt Chapman, Matt Olson, Ramon Laureano, Sean Murphy. They're going to be coming up on free agency in the not too distant future, and they're all going to be gone too. And so, Matt Chapman, Matt Olson, this was their first year of arbitration eligibility. The team has 2 more years of team control. If it lasts that long. So I think it's only a matter of time until, if they keep going at this rate and keep letting these guys go, they're going to be back at the bottom of the AL West. I think that, and look, credit to Billy Beane and the front office for drafting so well and developing these young players. But I think it's hard to maintain. It's tough. This feels like a real window for them to go after World Series, and I think they're wasting it. And I think in a few years, we're going to see them back at the bottom of the AL West unless something changes in ownership.
So you're telling me right now that the new stadium is what is going to keep this ownership in, and that's what they're pushing for. But, I mean, is that like the hype that they're trying to just – that's the holy grail that they're like, all right, if we just get that, then, like, we're clear for, another arbitrary amount of time.
I mean, look, they've been – A's fans have heard this for decades, too. They've heard all about this stadium. It's been coming for 20 years, and it keeps falling through. And, yeah, that's what they keep saying. When we get this new stadium, we'll have more revenue. We'll be able to spend more. I'll believe it when I see it. I think all A's fans will believe it when they see it. Again, the stadium has a lot more hurdles to go through. Obviously, the pandemic has not helped the progress. So it's tough. It's tough to be an A's fan right now. Even though they're going to put a pretty good product on the field, there's just, again, still so much uncertainty with if there's going to be a new stadium. Theoretically, the team could still move. Which players are they going to trade? It's just the same thing we've been seeing over and over. And I feel for my A's fans out there, it's got to be just excruciating to watch.
Well, I guess on that note, we do have a fan question for you since we're talking about young players being traded.
Sure.
Pat asks, will the A's trade Matt Chapman before the season starts? I think that's the thing that everyone's gearing for, right? Like all A's fans that I follow on Twitter are like, they're just like, it's going to happen. Like, I'm just over it now.
I know. I think A's fans are like, they're used to, it's like when you're used to getting cheated on in relationships. They're just bracing for the worst here. It's like, I don't think they'll trade Chapman this year unless they were to somehow fall out of contention. Maybe at the deadline they would do it then. I think, he's affordable this year. He's making somewhere in the $6 million range in his first year of arbitration eligibility. Maybe next year. I would think definitely by the year after that. But it was funny because, the A's recently made a trade with the Dodgers, and a small one. They got Kolarek from the Dodgers. They gave up Sheldon Noisy, a couple other pieces in that trade as well. But every A's fan I was seeing on Twitter was like, oh, my God, I thought it was Matt Chapman when I saw Dodgers because everyone knew the Dodgers were looking for a third baseman. And it's tough. As an A's fan, you've just been burned so many times before. Letting Marcus Semien go and Hendricks go this offseason signals that it's the same thing, unless something changes in ownership, which doesn't look like it will. Matt Chapman, at most, you've got 3 more years of him, probably 1 or 2. So I guess enjoy him. But I think he'll be here this year, to answer the question.
Well, unless, Andy, you have more baseball talk, I figured we'd get on with some of the other news. All right.
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, guys, we got to talk about the Jared Goff deal. We've had some time to sit on it now, and so we're not like too emotional about it, but all 3 of us being Cal guys, like I know visibly like a lot of people were upset, on Twitter, of course, as they're upset about everything, but this one more so than more other things. But with the Jared Goff deal, I want your guys' thoughts. Like, what was your initial reaction? How do you feel about it now? Like, is this a win-win kind of for all, or is this a screw you Rams, you did our boy bad? What is it?
Should I go
Ben,
first?
Ben, if you got it, go for it.
My initial reaction was holy overpayment, Batman, from the Rams' perspective. What did they give up? Like, they gave up Goff and a couple of first-round picks.
Two first-rounders, and then and then another extra pick.
Yeah, to get Matthew Stafford. Look, Matthew Stafford's a good quarterback, but I mean, has he shown that he's that much better than Jared Goff? I mean, he's good. I don't think he's great, and I do kind of, maybe it is the Cal homer in me, but I do feel like they sort of did Goff dirty. I don't know. I've never been the biggest Sean McVay fan. I think he's overrated as a coach. Everyone seems to think he's this genius, and I always watch his teams, and I don't like his decision making as a coach. I don't like their play calling a lot of the time. And he kind of threw Jared Goff under the bus. Look, Goff obviously has made his share of bad interceptions and turnovers. But the thing is, like, he's still pretty young. He's shown flashes of what he's capable of. And, yeah, I don't know. If I'm the Rams, like, this move for the Rams is basically – Super Bowl or bust. Like, if they don't win a Super Bowl with Matt Stafford, it's a terrible trade. They've given up all of their draft picks for like the last 7 years. And as I said, I think Stafford is good. I don't think he's necessarily the guy that puts them over the top. So to me, that's a win for the Lions.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Yeah, I think as this has aged, it's gotten more upsetting because of what Ben said. It's like, just at least treat the guy with some respect as he's leaving. It's not like Jared Goff came in and started, lighting the world on fire about what was happening or woe is me. He's a consummate professional. We've seen him at his lowest, the lowest of lows, and work his way up from there to a Super Bowl appearance. And he's nothing but, a stand-up class act. And the stuff that leaked about the locker room and McVay potentially leaking stuff to Aikman, and it's just trash. The Rams are making these trades it feels like, what, didn't they just get Jalen Ramsey? They're always making these big moves, and it's Super Bowl or bust, and they don't get to the Super Bowl, and then they can't rebuild. And, that's not a sustainable way to build a team. So I think what Ben said, it's probably McVay's last shot. and maybe they feel better looking at Stafford. He'll probably. I mean, Stafford's pretty damn good, but at the same time, like if you look at Goff's stats and a couple 4,000-yard plus seasons, and always pretty solid with the touchdown to turnover ratio, except for outside of this last season. I think that for me, I just don't know. Like if you looked at it from a baseball standpoint, you'd be like, all right, what's the wins above replacement? Like how would we be able, like that would be a great way to be able to calculate this, because then I think it's probably something like maybe in the NFL, it's like maybe a game. So maybe they get one more game, but does that really do anything for the Rams, make them any different next year versus this year? I don't think so. And then in the meantime, it just sucks, I think, for Goff, because he goes to Detroit. So, Rob, I want to bring you in here. And then he has Anthony freaking Lynn as his offensive coordinator. So, it's just tough to stomach. I hope that he can be successful. The optimist in me is trying to be like, oh, it'll be a better situation for him there. I don't think so. The press conference from the new Detroit coach was downright awful, and you have Anthony Lynn leading the offense. So, I think it's just kind of like a lose-lose for both Jared Goff and for the Rams.
As a Chargers fan, I just felt like I had just gotten rid of Anthony Lynn out of my life. Like he had just left the door, and then he walked right back in. I'm like, why? Well, what did I do to deserve this? Is this 2020 all over again for me? Like, do I have to endure through this? Oh God, I think they're all valid points. I think the biggest thing that people are saying, like, oh, he's going to be in a better offense. Matt Stafford probably had better wide receivers in Detroit than he will in LA. And I firmly stand by that from the duration of his career. The dude had Megatron. The dude had Megatron. And then he had Marvin Jones, of course, a Cal guy, but outstanding touchdown threat. And then Kenny Galladay's not a chump either. I do think that wide receiver, it's a drop-off. Like Cooper Kupp's good, Robert Woods is good, but he's not Megatron good. And those stats might be there, but I mean, he hasn't won anything in the playoffs. Like, that's the big thing.
That's sort of how I look at it. Yeah, it's like, again, I think Matthew Stafford is good, but I think Jared Goff is good. I don't know how much of an upgrade that is. Yeah. And, a lot of the time it feels like people are talking about Stafford like, he's Mahomes or Rodgers or one of these guys who's, won a Super Bowl. Or, as you said, Rob, he hasn't really done it in the playoffs. I mean, I know his teams haven't been good with the Lions, but like you said, he's had receivers. I think he'll do okay with LA. Obviously, I think the Rams will still be good. Their defense is ridiculous. But I don't know. I guess in the NFL, it's a lot of the times it's a crapshoot anyway. Once you get to the playoffs, it's whoever the hot team is. But I still don't look at the Rams as I still don't consider them like the favorite in the NFC. So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, again, to me, it's if they don't win a Super Bowl, it's a loss for them because they've basically mortgaged their entire future here.
They basically traded away 7 first-round picks to get a 31-year-old quarterback.
Yeah,
like that's ultimately that's the math that comes down to it, right?
Yeah, I guess they don't really care about the draft, and they have done it other ways. Like you said, they've made these trades and these free agent additions, but I don't know. Maybe Sean McVay will prove me wrong. Obviously, he's super young, and we'll see if he can learn from his past mistakes. But I always find myself super underwhelmed by him and his decision making, and I feel like he's just this mediocre coach who's completely overblown.
Andy probably has thoughts on that. Plus Matt LaFleur. Andy's out for Matt LaFleur. just because of that one decision.
I was going to say that might have been the worst decision in NFL playoff history. I'm not even exaggerating.
Ever.
He basically had a chance and he gave it away. He said, "Nah, we're good. We're not going to try."
He should have been fired.
Honestly, he's lucky that the team was so good for the rest of the year. Because to me, I'm not saying he should have been fired, but I think I tweeted at the time that decision itself is a fireable offense. It's one of the worst decisions I can remember in sports history.
Yeah, if I'm a Packers fan, you never gain that trust back. But to what Ben said too, it's like if you're looking at in the division and you look at, I still don't really trust the Cardinals that much. I trust Kyler, but I don't know how much I actually trust Cliff.
Cliff Kingsbury, there's another mediocre dude who everyone
Yeah. It just sort of seems like, especially when McVay was hired, it was kind of at the beginning of the hype for these new age offenses. And what has happened in some of these hires is like, okay, so then everybody farmed the Rams coaching staff, made a bunch of hires, and those hires have been just okay. It's not like there's this amazing coaching tree that's coming out of, the Bill Walsh days where all these coaches are going on being super successful or anything like that. And so I think McVay, I look at as just sort of a coach that had a lot of hype about his offense and being really young and innovative. But if you look in the division, you still have Kyle Shanahan with the Niners. If the Niners bring in even if they bring back Jimmy G and Jimmy G just turns out to be fine plus, I think the Niners are going to compete because that D-line is going to be just ridiculous. It's going to be a nightmare. Then you have Seattle. I don't know what's happening with Russell Wilson, but I'm just going to assume he's going to be back. And Pete Carroll, they're not going to be going anywhere. And then, Kyler was one of the best quarterbacks in the league this last season. So it's like, I don't know. I guess you got to try to compete. But if I was the Rams and I was looking at my actual situation, I might say, hey, let's build some depth around this team versus let's shoot for the moon again. I was thinking of all the different trades that they've done. What didn't they trade a lot for Brandon Cooks? They've literally brought in all of the big names, and I don't think it's really ever panned out.
Yeah, I mean, to really emphasize that point, I think their best free agent acquisition was probably getting C.J. Anderson for that Super Bowl run. That was probably their best acquisition. Just so frustrating. But in the meantime, I think all of us are going to be sadly watching some Detroit Lions games, which I don't know how I should be feeling about that. I mean, he gets to play Aaron Rodgers twice a year. Is that a plus, a negative?
It'll be fun.
It'll be. You'll get to see them hug at the end of the game, and that's the best part for Cal fans. Might
not be fun for Lions fans watching. I mean, I feel like the Lions are never going to beat the Packers, but you never know. But yeah, it's. I have a lot of friends who are Niners fans, and the only reason that went to Cal that are also 49ers fans, and so they are at least happy that they don't have to root for Goff on the Rams anymore. Because, Niner fans, they want to root against the Rams. So they're like, all right, now I don't have any reasons to root for the Rams at all.
Same with me as a Chargers fan. I can finally let go of the other team in LA and crap on them as much as I want.
Yep, exactly.
And we stole your coach. So, have at it, Rams fans. Your defense is not going to be as good as it was this past year. I think I think we should go over one more thing here. Since Ben, you do some broadcasting, you're doing some basketball stuff right now. Let's talk about Cal basketball. And
Why not?
The thing that is happening,
Big
we
win.
have 7-game losing streak is finally over.
Yeah,
we are done, and we beat Colorado, which was surprising because I think their net ranking is 16th in the country.
Yeah,
they're an outstanding team, but we just played out of my minds. Did you watch the Colorado game? What?
Yeah.
Or have you been following this? You did?
Yeah, I've been following. I watched most of that game, and what an unbelievable win. And if you're Colorado, what a terrible loss. Nothing against Cal. And Cal, the one thing with this Cal team is that they do compete and stay in games, and then they tend to kind of lose them late. So it's not like they're that far away. But yeah, if you're Colorado, trying to get into the tournament, try and get a good seed, you come off an impressive win at Stanford and then lose to Cal, who's toward the bottom of the conference. That one hurts. But no, for Cal, I've been watching this Cal team, and again, they're not that far away. They've got some good talent. I like the job Mark Fox is doing. You can tell he knows how to coach, and I'm hoping next year we'll see some significant improvements. I think we already have. As I said, there's a number of games that Cal could have won that they just couldn't quite hang on late. But Matt Bradley's obviously a stud. I love watching Andre Kelly. Some of the guards have been impressive as well. So they're not as bad as their record would indicate. But that was a hell of a win against Colorado.
Shots fired, Rob. Shots fired.
Yeah, Ben's on the opposite end of the spectrum for me. I mean, to be totally fair, I hope Fox proves me wrong.
Yeah,
I'm on the thing of it was the wrong hire to begin with. I haven't seen anything really that, makes me excited about the future. The recruiting hasn't been great over 2 seasons. Like, he has 8 of the underclassmen, I believe, on the roster are his scholarship players, but 2 don't even get any playing time. Like,
Right.
it's a very, and then, like, he throws out the words of like talent deficiency like last week in one of his pressers. And then Brian Bentley apparently he played him too hard, but how do you play a 5th-year senior too hard? Like, shouldn't he have the legs to play a full competitive season?
Yeah.
I can go back and forth on this. I hope this is like a turning point and he proves me wrong.
We'll see. I mean, look, I think next year is the key, right? Year 3 for him. If they don't make serious improvements and start winning a lot of these games that they're losing at the end, I think then you're proven right. So hopefully, I'm expecting a much improved Cal team next year. That's going to be hopefully at least in the middle of the conference, and maybe around 500 in conference play. That would be a big step from this year. So I'm hoping for that. But you're right. Next year, if they're, I don't think they'll be this bad, but even if they're close, I think that's when patience starts to run out for a coach.
Yeah. I just wanted us not to eclipse Viking Jones of 2 wins in a conference season. We're at least not going to do that. We'll at least finish 1 above that.
Yeah.
Thank God.
It's been, I mean, look, I don't have to tell you guys, it's been a rough few years for Cal Hoops.
It's not been fun. It's not been fun.
No.
But Ben, before we let you go, just a quick prediction here. How does Cal football do next year?
Man,
from you?
That's a good question. I was so disappointed about this year. I mean, I know that it was not like a real year and they only ended up playing like 4 games or whatever, but I was expecting such big things from the year before. The momentum, the strides they were making, the offense looked improved, the defense still really good, and then God, that Stanford loss was crushing. I'm still not over that. So if you had asked me before this season, I would have said we're absolutely competing for the Pac-12 title. I don't know. I'm hoping that they take another step forward, but I'm thinking maybe a little above 500, like 7-5.
I think that's reasonable.
I'm hoping that we prove me wrong and win 9 or 10 games.
Seems like the theme of this podcast is prove me wrong.
Yeah, I mean,
it seems like that's becoming the pod.
Life is a Cal fan, right? We expect the worst.
Oh man. Well, actually, I got one more question for you, Ben. A buddy of mine just texted me, and he's an A's fan, and he asks you if they remade Moneyball,
yeah,
and they gave you a character in the movie, which actor would play you in the movie?
Wow, that's a great question. I don't know. I get told a lot of people tell me that I look like Jerry Seinfeld. Is he too old? Too old to play Ben Ross?
I guess that's up to you. Is it too personal for you if Jerry Seinfeld plays you?
I don't know how he would really fit into Moneyball, just making little jokes on the side. What's the deal with this? What's the deal with the Coliseum? Maybe Adam Sandler. That's another one I get.
I see it.
I like Seinfeld. I like that a lot.
Maybe Seinfeld could do it.
Yeah. Well,
what's the deal with water in the locker room?
Exactly.
Well, you heard it here first. We're gonna cast Jerry Seinfeld as Ben Ross in the next Moneyball movie. It's happening. It's happening.
Can't wait. Someone get a hold of Jerry's agent.
Well, Ben, thanks for the time. Where can people listen to all of your content and find you on the social media networks?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Appreciate it. Find me on Twitter at Ben Ross Tweets. And I still host an Oakland A's podcast, the Believe in Oakland A's podcast. That's BLEAV, Believe. And so I try and have either a player or a writer or an analyst come on each week. And you can get that wherever you get your pods. And if you follow me on Twitter, you'll see the various college sporting events I'm announcing. So do some volleyball, do some basketball, some soccer. I'm going to be doing baseball, so you can always check those out too.
Well, once again, that's at Ben Ross Tweets, so get at him and get all your A's content from the Believe in A's podcast. Well, once again, Ben, thank you for the time, and as we wrap up, can I get you to give a Go Bears?
Oh, thank you guys for having me. First of all, it was fun, and always Go Bears.
Go Bears.
Go Bears.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.